Jacob and I have been racing for Team Hoyt since 2014. On March 1st, 2020, we traveled to Atlanta for the Publix Half Marathon with the Kyle Peace Foundation, and I completely bombed. While racing for Team Hoyt's not necessarily about finishing times and PRs, I realized that the sport provided me the opportunity to travel the country and meet amazing people, and I wanted my effort and training to reflect and appreciate that privilege. After the race in Atlanta, I set the goal of qualifying for Boston, which requires finishing a marathon on a certified course in under 3 hours. We tried to do so at Bay State in 2021, but got a flat tire. Then we tried again at the Providence Marathon in 2022, but I ran out of steam around mile 21. Those failures were weighing heavy as race day approached, and I had a lot of doubt as to whether I was cut out for the marathon distance. It's taken more or less 9 years to get here. Over the last 3 years, I haven't missed a week of training, and I've run about 4,613 miles since the race in Atlanta, and I'm physically in the best running shape of my life. But still, a lot can go wrong over the course of a marathon. But fortunately, this past weekend, not much did, and Jacob and I finished the Martha's Vineyard Marathon in 2 hours and 55 minutes to qualify for Boston 2024. I'll quickly take you through a recap of the race. What are we doing?
Racing.
There was a stretch from about mile 8 to 10 with some very short but steep uphill and downhill segments. In the past, I've popped our front tire by squeezing too hard on the handbrake, so I was hesitant to use this much at all. As a result, we ended up sprinting downhill to try to keep up with the chair, and then crawling uphill to try to catch my breath. My body temperature spiked and my heart rate was pretty elevated, and at this point, I kind of regretted being in a black t-shirt instead of a singlet. After a couple more miles together, I felt the runners that I had spent most of the first half with fading a little bit, as I had to keep slowing down to not clip their feet with our chair. It made more sense to pass them and not have to worry about the positioning of the wheelchair, but being by ourselves required a little more effort to focus on pacing and not getting overzealous too early. I don't remember at what mile exactly the half marathoners joined the same bike path as the marathon, but it made for a tough few mile stretch of speeding up to pass runners, slowing down to not hit others, and weaving around people. I was beginning to get frustrated, but luckily the bike path ran parallel and adjacent to the street, so I ended up moving onto the road to make it safer for Jacob and the other runners. Around mile 20, I started to feel the onset of some cramping, which led my mind to wander to the final stretch of those other marathons that I had struggled so much with. But I knew the difference this time around was that I had accumulated more miles in training, was smarter during the build-up, and my nutrition strategy throughout the race was much improved. I've been taking a sip of Morton's 320 drink mix every mile and a gel every 5. This got me to about 80 grams of carbs per hour. It took a while for me to build up a tolerance to taking that many calories while running, but I was diligent in practicing this fueling strategy with every long run, and I think it paid off. We ran a strong 10K segment from 19 to 24, but I fell off a bit during the 25th and 26th miles, with the 25th being my first and only mile above the 3-hour marathon pace of 6:52. But ultimately, we were able to negative split our half marathons, going 1:28:03 for the first and 1:27:07 for the second. When I realized I was only at 2 hours and 50 minutes with less than a mile to go, I called my wife to let her know that we were on our way to the finish and were going to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It was a moment that I had thought about a lot, and it was a feeling of pure relief when I realized that we were going to finish under the qualifying time. Running the Boston Marathon has been a dream, and I can't wait to join the tens of thousands of other runners in April along the historic course. I hope to do a better job of documenting and providing insight into our training along the way. Thanks for following along.